Thank you, David. Wow, I didn't realize this was going to be as an emotional an experience as it is becoming. Unfortunately, we're going to have to dig deeper into this subject, and we're going to have to get very close to the man that actually started this whole subject. And I'd like to introduce a man who worked very closely with the man in question. I believe he was actually personal archivist to the man in question, Gerry Armstrong.
Yes, thanks. Thank you. I would like to thank the organizers, Pete, John, whoever else was involved. This has really turned out to be, I think, an incredible undertaking, an event, gathering of all kinds of the most evil people on the planet. So, great congratulations. And I'd like to thank all the participants as well, the attendees here. I'd like to thank the individual who made it possible for me to fly here and, stay in one of your hotels and hang out with all of you guys. So it's a lot of people have made this possible, and I'm really grateful to everyone. I bring greetings from Vanonymous. That's the anonymous cell in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm sort of their homeboy, and they send me off on these missions every once in a while around the world. And so hi from Vanonymous. I want to just mention my Irish connection, which I've learned about over the ages and sort of grew up with. I have a great-great-grandfather who sailed from Dublin in 1860 after the Great Famine and landed in British Columbia. And he got an MA here at Trinity College. And then he became the Archdeacon of the Diocese of British Columbia in the Anglican Church. So, a little war there, but nevertheless, and that's why I suppose I was raised in the Anglican Church. And I want to mention, where's Jamie? Not here? Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that you never met your grandfather. Great-grandfather, I'm sorry. But I wanted to tell you that I met your great-grandfather, and I also met your great-great-grandfather, Harry Ross Hubbard. And I met your grandfather. And I don't think it was your parent, but I met one of his children as well. I visited your grandfather, Nibs, in Carson City in, 1981. And then I met him a number of times after that as well, as we both joined the fight against Scientology. So I know 5 generations of you guys.
You're the best.
Now, just a little housekeeping here. I have here some treasures. My wife, Caroline Letkeman, is also an escapee from Scientology. She was inside for 24 years, was a highly classed auditor, and left in, 1999, and really is one of the preeminent researchers and scholars. And she has devoted her life subsequently to the study of WOG psychology in order to understand what happened to her, what happened to Scientologists, L. Ron Hubbard, and she has helped many people around the world. She's also a crochet artist. And she has created these little cards. I'll show you here. So it's a little 4-leaf clover crocheted onto these little cards with a little note from us. She made these little envelopes out of old calendars. So I'll pass these around. I think there's about 100 of them here, and there's probably 100 of you. So if anybody takes, more than one, suspect them of being in Scientology. And then, for all the speakers, she made these wonderful little crocheted Irish flags with a little 4-leaf clover on. Sure. Yeah. So all the speakers will get one of those, so I'll just get rid of these now and pass them around, and yeah, here. And then I'll find all the speakers later, and I'll hand out their flags. I'll stick them in my pocket for now. And just one more little piece of trivia. This, as you all know, that's the Canadian flag. This is the flag of British Columbia, my province. And this is the flag of Chilliwack. This is the town that I was born in. And now, isn't that ironic? That is so ironic. I can't leave it, unfortunately. It's a total treasure, and they're rare as hen's teeth. But I tell you, there's something about Ireland and Chilliwack, and 4-leaf clovers, and etc. So, I won't speak long. I have a very long history in the organization, and then outside of the organization. I look forward to talking to anyone who wants to talk to me afterward, and if anyone has any questions, that's more fun than getting, a speech from me anyway. I was inside for 12 and a half years, 1969 through 1981. I got in when I was 22. I got out when I was 35. I held a number of sensitive and key positions inside. I was, like Sharon, on the ship. I was on the ship with L. Ron Hubbard, 1971 through 1975, and I was the legal officer on board. I was the public relations officer on board. I was the intelligence officer on board. And these are different times, but they all had to do with dealing with people outside off the ship. Customs, immigration, police, shore flaps. And John Dignan might appreciate this. My first year on board, I was called the ship's driver. So we had this little Fiat 500cc car that we would offload in ports, and then I would drive around the various ports and get supplies for the ship or drive around people who needed it. And John got labeled a bus driver after he left, and the black PR on me was that I drove a car. And indeed, I did drive a car, but they omit all the other positions that I held. We left the ship. I was in intelligence in the Guardian's office briefly. Then I got busted because I was considered a security risk, and did little tasks for a while. And then I was assigned to L. Ron Hubbard's External Communications Bureau. And so I saw a lot of his traffic. I handled a lot of telexes and mail for him. And at that time, off the ship, we'd landed in Florida, and they set up the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, and we lived in an apartment complex in Dunedin, Florida, which is about 5 miles distant. And Hubbard then left from there, and because his cover was blown and his Dunedin location was identified, and he went to Washington, D.C. In the press pack, there's a mention that Hubbard had gone to Ireland in 1977 or 1978, something like that. But this was a shore story which was planted on a program by the Guardian's office, and Hubbard was actually in Washington, D.C., and intending to go to California to set up a base, which we ultimately did, and that became a base at La Quinta. And 1976, I went ahead and set up a staging area in Culver City, California. This was after they had purchased the La Quinta property and were intending to go there. And I got in an argument with Mary Sue Hubbard's secretary, and Hubbard assigned, well, he had me locked up for a couple of weeks or so, and then shipped off to Florida and assigned to the RPF, along with my wife at the time, Terry, who had been his senior messenger at that time. We were deemed security risks, so we were sent back on a plane along with some Guardian's office personnel guarding us, and I spent the next 17 months in the RPF in Clearwater, Florida. I got out of the RPF, and then I shot movies with him in 1978. We were at that time in La Quinta, and then in 1970, likewise in 1978, he got the idea that I was joking about his movie making, and I, along with Terry again and others, were assigned to the RPF. So I spent the next 8 months on L. Ron Hubbard's order in the RPF, got out of that, and then got assigned to his personal office. I started off as a purchaser, and then I became the deputy commanding officer of the household unit, we called it. I had his staff underneath me at the Gilman Hot Springs base. In the beginning of 1980, there was a threat of a raid at Gilman Hot Springs by the FBI or law enforcement. And of course, the FBI had already raided the intelligence bureaus of Scientology in LA and Washington, D.C. in 1977, and we had constant raid threats, and there was a constant need to shred, burn what they considered anything that was out security. So we had to destroy anything which showed that Hubbard intended to live on the property, that he received money from Scientology, that he issued orders to us, that he controlled the organization, all of which he did. We were supposed to destroy that. And in the process of destroying that, one of my juniors discovered a mass of his personal archives, which had been hidden away and were in dilapidated condition. And I saved those from destruction, and that became the basis for what became the Hubbard Biography Project. I petitioned Hubbard at the beginning of 1980 to do his research for his biography, and he approved the petition, and I spent the next 2 years assembling material from around the world, interviewing his living relatives that I could reach, Jamie's great-great-aunt and a great-great-uncle and, cousins of various kinds, and assembling this material and working with an outside writer by the name of Omar Garrison. And really, it was during that process of having possession of his material and studying it that I pretty well deprogrammed myself. So you had a deprogrammed Sea Org member inside the Sea Org, inside Scientology, with possession of this highly sensitive material, and reading more, assimilating it, and documenting for myself the lies that the guy had told about himself. So these were, to me, very significant lies. He had claimed to be a civil engineer, a nuclear physicist, a great war hero, that he'd been crippled and blinded, that he had this sterling academic record, he had PhDs, and all of this turned out to be just pure, unadulterated lies. And so not only did I discover for myself that the guy was a horrendous liar, but also I had to confront the fact that he also lied about Scientology. And I knew by the time I left that this stuff does not work. There are no clears, there are no OTs. I was OT3 by this time, but I knew that I was not only no different from when I had gotten in, I had exactly the same problems and, deficiencies and, all the things that I came into Scientology with. But now, when I'm considering leaving, I know that I'm going to be a target. So it's far worse than when I actually got in. And that's indeed what happened. I left the organization. My wife and I, in order to leave, and Sharon mentioned this as well, they do lock people up. I had already been locked up. And in that mental state that I had at that time, I would have fought them. And I believe that them knowing what I possessed in my mind, they would have killed me. They would not have let me leave. They would have Lisa McPhersoned me, and I would have been dead. I had to escape. So we made plans over a couple of weeks, and I moved my very few belongings a bit by bit off the property. And Hubbard was in hiding at that time, so although we knew that we could communicate to him, we had to pretend that there was no line of communication. So I had a relatively free couple of years to travel around and come and go from the Sea Org base. This was in LA at the time. So during those two weeks, we took our things bit by bit off the property, and then we left ourselves. And immediately we did, as I suspected would happen, we attempted to maintain friendly relations with them, but we became targets. They sent the GO after us, and within a month, they declared me a suppressive person, and I knew by this time what that meant. An SP, just to clarify it, I have come to know that a true SP is someone who tells the truth that they know from their experience and their knowledge, tells the truth about Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Those, and those are the things which Scientologists may not do. They are prohibited from doing that. That is actually treason condition to tell the truth about Scientology and about L. Ron Hubbard. And it should also be understood that it makes real sense that they declare us suppressive persons, people who tell the truth about Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard, because that is the threat. What they are afraid of is people who tell the truth. It's that simple. It isn't that we are evil people. They ascribe to us these tremendously evil characteristics. So they say that SPs, or suppressive persons, are responsible for all illness, all accidents, and every bad condition on planet Earth. That we constitute the most evil 2.5% of the planetary population. And ironically, of course, the truth is that some of the very best people that you'll meet are those who stand up, despite becoming targets, and tell the truth. What they do to SPs, they call the treatment or handling of SPs, Hubbard called fair game. Fair game is a common English word meaning that someone is a legitimate target for attack and pursuit. And that's exactly what happens to an SP. What Scientology is doing now, in order to water down what it really means to be a suppressive person, is to declare themselves SPs when none of them are telling the truth about L. Ron Hubbard and about Scientology. So they make it appear as if, oh yeah, SPs, those are people you can't talk to anymore. Some Scientologists get told, yes, you can't talk to them. But other Scientologists get told, no, you fair game those people. And since I left the organization, I've been assaulted multiple times, driven into bodily with a car, messed around on a freeway in Southern California. And this was serious activity by PIs hired by the organization. Likewise, on an Autobahn in Germany, they have sued me 6 times, driven me into bankruptcy. They have attempted to have me prosecuted on false criminal charges in the States, and they try it with law enforcement up in Canada. They've tried in Russia, and they have created and manufactured and disseminated a virtual mountain of black propaganda about me around the world. Black propaganda is Hubbard's term for the destruction of someone, their the destruction of somebody's credibility and essentially their relationships, their livelihood and their life with the constant rumor-mongering, outright lies, innuendo, and covert and overt about someone. And it is an extremely evil practice, and it is practiced by every Scientologist. You cannot be a Scientologist and not go along with the party line about some SP. Yes. There are really 3 areas of fraud inside the organization. This is fraud created by L. Ron Hubbard. What they're selling. What they're selling are abilities, intelligence, and character. So they are saying, we are going to, what you get if you're audited and you go up their bridge to total freedom, you are achieving these superhuman abilities which no one ever has achieved before. And so you get up to the state of OT and you're supposedly cause over matter, energy, space, and time. Now, I was not an educated kid, but I was a smart kid, so I understood that. I was smart enough to understand what he was saying. I understood what it meant to be at cause over matter, energy, space, and time. It is a false promise. I understood when Hubbard said that your IQ would go up a point per hour of auditing on average. And I've pointed out to people across the world that I've had over 1,000 hours of auditing. But it really, the Scientology system not only does not make you smarter, it renders you more ignorant. Because you cannot develop your mind. You cannot do the things which are necessary to assimilate real knowledge. The other thing is character. What they're selling is this idea that along with these increased abilities and along with this increased intelligence, your character is improving. You're becoming a more ethical being, and therefore you're not going to become an evil genius. You're going to become an ethical genius. And that also is completely untrue. It is destructive of character. Scientology is not the most ethical organization on the planet. It is one of the most unethical organizations on the planet. And Scientologists as a group and individuals are not ethical, and they cannot be ethical. It destroys character. And those are the three things that it's selling, and it's fraud. Just one more quick comment, and that is the SP doctrine is indefensible. No Scientologist can defend it or even tries to defend it. What they try to defend is something different from what the doctrine really is. So if you talk to a Scientologist about the SP doctrine, they will talk about something. They'll talk about SPs, and they'll talk about how SPs really are these evil people, and they really do have the characteristics of psychopaths or sociopaths, and there probably really is 2.5% of people on the planet who really are the most evil, if there is such thing as evil people. There are bad people around. There's no doubt about that. But that's not the SP doctrine. The SP doctrine is good people being targeted as evil people. And they equate us with some really evil people. Hitler, Stalin, Osama. Those are the people that they equate the people who tell the truth about Scientology. Caroline and I created a website, SPDL we call it, the Suppressive Person Defense League, suppressiveperson.org, and the goal of which is to expose and oppose the suppressive person doctrine. And the SP doctrine is what underlies all the evils that Scientologists do in the world. They do it because they believe that there are these evil people that evil must be done to. And it's justified by the SP doctrine. It's very key in the Scientology psyche and in their behavior to understand the SP doctrine. And that's the end of my talk. But I'd love to have questions. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to salute you as a hero and as a person who has led the way historically, that you have suffered nearly martyrdom for freedom, and for those of us who have been struggling with this group at very small level compared to you, just want to salute you and welcome you to this island of which your relatives came in the 19th century. And I just wanted to ask you, as someone who has been at the center of this, I was born in South Africa. As you know, one of the projects that L. Ron Hubbard had was to use the Nationalist Party of South Africa, which is its apartheid model. Then he moved on to Rhodesia, hoping to use that. Did he have a kind of a model of setting up a kind of a Scientology state? We noticed in the discussion of Corfu, did he come to Ireland actually to make us a little colony? Was he looking for that place which ultimately he couldn't find on the ship either, to become a state of Scientology so that he could clear the planet from an actual, like Israel, I think was another place that he had in mind, just to get your understanding of that?
Yes, he definitely did, and thanks for your very kind words, Mike. Yeah, and I was involved in his effort to take over Morocco. So he sought, this was the Apollo in the very early 70s, and he sought to introduce the e-meter in Morocco and to sec-check the military and the intelligence on behalf of King Hassan II at the time, and ingratiate himself and make that a safe base for Scientology. But he did, and we all talked about it, which was going to be the first clear country, we talked about clear cities and clear countries and a clear planet. And I believe that this was a constant effort and goal on his part. So we needed safe ports to operate in, safe countries, and a safe planet. So you're absolutely right. He created, as you know, a constitution, right, for Rhodesia. So he was attempting to make himself invaluable in a number of countries at different times for that purpose of taking over and getting them all clear.
But it's just because I've heard different versions of this story, so I just want to ask you, you mentioned that you did reach OT3, so for 110%, is that when they hit you with the Xenu thing, or?
Yes.
For definitely, yeah.
Yes, I think I understood what you said there about the Xenu story, right?
That actual 110% actual doctrine, like proper, at that level?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. What has been published on the internet is accurate. You can read the bigger story, Revolt in the Stars. That's the novel, and it's online, that Hubbard wrote, which expands the OT3 story. It does not provide the auditing steps which you go through on OT3. What South Park did is extremely accurate. And all of the auditing after OT3 as well. It all involves getting rid of these BTs and clusters of BTs which infest and comprise the human body. So he says. Yeah. Yes?
Gerry, from a historical standpoint, there have been many attempts to sort of take the sting out of Scientology, many Reformation attempts. There's one going on right now. In your opinion, have any of those attempts been better? Have any of the attempts at the Reformation of Scientology improved things, or is it all the same? How do you feel about that?
I'll tell you from my viewpoint as a target of the organization that nothing has changed. And there are many reports, of course, of things getting even worse. Now, they have more money, so in a sense, conditions, cosmetically at least, for staff and Sea Org members at times are probably better. People at the top get substantial bonuses And
that's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking about the corporate Scientology. I'm asking about the other groups, the splinter groups that have split away from Scientology and attempted to use the tech of L. Ron Hubbard on their own outside of the Church of Scientology, corporate structure. Do you see any validity in those groups?
no, and the reason is because they all embrace the SP doctrine. That's the key. When they say, no, we do not. The SP doctrine is what makes Scientology a hate group. It makes them a totalitarian group. And it creates that tremendous irrationality in the mind of every Scientologist. As soon as you embrace that someone who's telling the truth about, my subject and the founder of this thing, that they are evil and are to be destroyed. Remember Tom Cruise saying, right, a world without SPs, this was a great thing for him. He wanted to, wouldn't that be wonderful when nobody in the world any longer tells any truth about L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology? Yeah. So I've never met a Scientologist yet who did not embrace the SP doctrine. And it must be remembered that in the various factions, and the one that stands out right now, of course, is the Marty Rathbun, Mike Rinder faction, and then there's the David Miscavige faction. They all embrace the SP doctrine. And also remember that if you're a cook in corporate Scientology, you're not declaring people SP. You're not disconnecting. You're not executing fair game against them. That is for other people to do. But you support it. Same thing on the outside. So, in a sense, corporate Scientology has outsourced some of the attacks on WOGs, SPs such as myself, to the splinter group, the independent Scientologists. So you don't see corporate Scientologists right now black PRing Gerry Armstrong. That's not visible. That's been taken over by Marty and his gang. Yeah.